how did you kind of cope through that period of losing him and coming through the other side with not just by yourself, but with children, with responsibility, with a business?
Yeah. I never thought I'd lose my spouse in my 30s. I never thought my husband would pass away.
How does a woman especially not be defined by what has happened?
We serve a God that can be trusted but cannot be controlled. And he will do what he feels best.
There can be a pressure if you've walked through something to be then the guide, the helper, the door opener for everybody else.
It's the loss of dreams. It's the loss of dreams. Death is so rude.
Yeah.
It's so rude. Doesn't care about your plans, even in pain. One has the ability to be a blessing to somebody else, moving beyond your pain.
Welcome to the Magnify Conversations. My name's Ruth and I'm the founder and CEO of Magnify.
And my name's Rachel and I'm one of the hosts of this show.
Magnify is a global community and content platform focused on equipping women like you to grow in and impact your sphere of influence. We truly want to see you thrive in all areas of life and want to display what faith can look like at the center of that too.
We started the conversations because we wanted to have real discussions about the things that matter. Money, relationships, and work, all through the lens of faith and our relationship with God.
Ultimately, we know as multifaceted women, things are rarely one size fits all. So we speak with many different women who are from our community and hear their stories. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Magnify Conversations.
We're so blessed to have Sarah back in the Magnify Studio to share how she rose after losing her husband.
Sarah is an executive, trustee, and property professional with over 14 years of experience. Her goal is to equip and empower others who lack resource to grow and preserve wealth.
This was a deeply personal episode where we didn't shy away from speaking about grief, and we're so thankful for Sarah's perspective on acknowledging life-altering events, but not being wholly defined by them.
So let's get into this conversation. So, Sarah, it is wonderful to have you back as a guest again.
Thank you.
Are you allowed to have favourites? I don't know. You're one of my favourites, though, just in life. So welcome back to TMC. And we're going to be talking a little bit about your story of going through losing a spouse and just hearing not only your story, but your wisdom and just your healing journey and life now. But before we do that, we want to just ask you some little icebreaker questions. You can join in as well, Sinead, if you want to. But I'm dying to know the answer to this. So if you had the opportunity to purchase one famous or iconic building in the world, which building would you choose and why?
I think it would have to be the Eiffel Tower.
I mean, what a classic.
That's a very good one.
I am a sucker for love.
Yeah.
And it's so majestic. It's so beautiful.
It is.
During the day, it could look quite ugly, but at night, once it lights up, it comes to life. So
it's truly iconic, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. The Eiffel Tower.
Yeah. Sinead?
Gosh, this is really hard.
It is a difficult question.
I'm going to say, is it Blenheim Palace?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I used to go there with my mum, like when I was really young, all the time. And I think they film Bridgerton there sometimes.
Probably.
Yeah,
I would imagine so.
But I remember it because of my childhood, like we used to go there a lot. So I'm going to say, and it's huge, like the grounds and everything.
Ground's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love an iconic building.
Yeah.
I've got to say Sydney Opera House.
Ooh.
It's just, obviously, it's just an architectural wonder, but then the location where it is, what it hosts, for me,
Fantastic.
Nice.
I think it'd be, be a good money maker too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's, true. Yeah.
And then Sarah, I know you look after yourself as well. So this is one for you. If you could exclusively exercise only in the morning or the evening, which would it be?
I would say in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm up at 5:30.
Do you like getting up early? Are you a morning person?
My body's now conditioned just to get up. I feel that, for the mornings that I don't, it's quite disruptive for my day. So it sets my focus, it sets the pace, and also I feel that I've already achieved a lot just by waking up.
Yeah.
So I would definitely work out in the morning. I could hear the birds singing, the sun's coming up, there's no one really around. It's very therapeutic.
There's something about the start of the day.
Yeah. It is. It sets your day up sets your day up.
It does. Sinead?
I was born in the night. I always have like Bane from the Batman film. Like I'm a child of dark. I'm in the night. I read at night. So it's actually hard for me to adjust to a morning schedule. But I think my time is coming where I'm going to have to adjust drastically.
The adjustment is coming. It's on its way.
But I don't really stay up at night because everyone's asleep.
Yeah.
So that's when I get a lot of reading done and things like that. So I want to be like you guys. I do. But,
I'm morning.
Yeah.
I'm a morning all the way.
Yeah.
I think maybe living in a different climate, like an early evening or a late evening run somewhere where the weather's nice in a beautiful setting. I can see that, but I think for day to day for me, it's the starting the focus, setting the tone for the day.
Absolutely.
It's kind of, you're already there. You're getting up, you go in and you're carrying on.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at anyway. So, Sarah, obviously you're going to be sharing your story with us today, and thank you so much for that as well. Why is it important to you, though, that we're having this conversation on the conversations, Magnify conversations today?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. For me, it's important in twofolds. It's important because I see it as a log of my love, a log of my story, and also I hope that when my children are older, they get the opportunity to see, what it was like, to hear what it was like, to know that even in pain, one has the ability to be a blessing to somebody else, moving beyond your pain. And the second fold for me is that I truly believe that we have the ability to decide every day what we want from that day. Yeah. But we don't get to decide when we lose our spouse. As long as foul play is not involved, that decision is taken out of your hand. And with that, the emotional and physical burden that comes with it is out of this world. And nobody ever believes it's going to happen to them. I never thought I'd lose my spouse in my 30s. I never thought my husband would pass away. So it was a huge, huge shock. But let's look at the statistic, right? If we are to believe what the statistics say, it's that 80% of men die married, which means that 80% of women are going to die single. Yeah. And we don't talk about it enough within our community. It's something that is sort of put under the carpet, and we are not prepared for it. And also, we live in a progressive world where things have moved on, but if we say the word widow, what image conjures up in your mind? I'm thinking a very old lady, maybe a bit bent over, a few coins in their hand, and maybe a walking stick, but here I am. I'm not that. And that unless we start to have that conversation, things are going to remain the same. And we need to change and address the stigma, the discrimination that is placed on women. So if I can contribute to that conversation, it would be a great blessing for me.
Yeah, and you will do. We already know that you will do. Yeah. So can you just tell us a bit of your story? Just who you are, like your family?
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's that saying that, what's the saying? The saying is that everyone's love story is special, right? Yeah. Everyone's love story is special, but mine is my favourite. And my story truly is my favourite. It was the most beautiful love story, but it started from a place of discomfort. It started from a place of me being uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable being single. I really hated being single. It was, I had this resounding belief that I was destined to be a wife. A wife and a mother. I don't know, but I just had that belief that I'm destined to be a wife and a mother, a fantastic wife, an amazing wife, a loving wife. And so I put my petition forward to God, and I did it the best way I knew how. I prayed, fasted, served, praised, and I was really, I put my faith on the line. I put my faith on the line. And so one day I was on my way to a client. I work in real estate, and I drove past this bridal store, and they were dressing the window. Guys, you're never going to believe this, but they were dressing the window, and this beautiful gown caught my attention. It was so beautiful, and I took a double take, and I was like, wow, that's gorgeous. And I drove off to my appointment On my way back, I stopped by the store again and I ventured in and I asked the sales assistant if I could take a closer look at the dress, the gown. And it was so beautiful, the lace detailing, the delicacy of it. It was so delicate. It was very sophisticated. It was very me. So I purchased it. Didn't have a boyfriend. Yeah.
Yes. I support that. I support that 100%. I support that 100%.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It was very expensive as well.
It's a big purchase.
So I put down a deposit, and she was so happy for me. And she asked me, "When's the day?"
Yeah,
ladies, when's the day? I'm like, well, and I'm very honest. There wasn't one. And I said, well, no, but I'm hoping that I'm going to get married. And what really gave me more confidence was that she wasn't surprised. So now that I'm thinking back on it, I think that many women...
It was more common than you expected.
I think so.
Yeah.
I
have a friend that purchased a dress, booked the venue.
Oh.
You didn't go that far,
no,
right?
I didn't go that far.
I wrote the guest list when I was single.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't want to make any more friends. So I was like...
That's cool.
This is the list for now. So, yeah.
So you get where I'm coming from.
100%. Yeah.
So I then also purchased a wedding album, which wasn't that expensive, from John Lewis. I did, and I put it under my bed. But I went to God. I said, God, listen, I'm dedicated to this.
Yeah, it's a statement.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I'm going for it. I'm going all out. I've put my money where my mouth is, and so God, let this guy turn up, and he did. I was hosting a games night, and this beautiful 6'3", handsome, gentle man walked through my door, and I was like, who is that? And I approached him. I'm very cheeky. I asked him, what's your name? What do you do? Where you from? And he was quite taken aback. But a few weeks later, we met again at another celebration, and he asked me to dance.
Oh, wow.
He asked me to dance, and I accepted his invitation. I danced with him, and what was so special about that dance was that I felt like I'd danced with him before. I felt that I had been dancing with him all my life. And it was amazing. So he asked for my number. I did not give it to him. I asked him to get it from a friend, and I was going to do my research about him first. And he got my number. We started talking. We went on our first date, and he made his intention very clear that he wanted to marry. He said that he doesn't date without having that, at the forefront of his mind. Could this woman be my wife? And 4 weeks later, he proposed.
Oh, wow.
We love that.
4 weeks later, he proposed. I got my yellow diamond, and 6-7 months later, we were married.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the love story. And
how old were you then?
31.
Wow.
So I started praying when I got to 30. I was like, Jesus, something has to happen.
So it happened very quickly.
Very quickly.
Incredible.
Very quickly. I made a vow to God. I said, God, if you do this for me, I promise you I'm going to do this. I will dedicate my life to you, because I really want somebody who I can build with.
Yeah.
And we did build. We built a beautiful home. The marriage birthed 3 gorgeous children, and it was the best love story.
Yeah, love that. And can you just tell us a little bit? Obviously, sadly, your husband passed.
Yeah.
Unimaginable. Like you say, just about your favourite. There's lots of special love stories, but your favourite love story, the person that you love the most. Yeah. What's kind of the narrative around that, and how did you? How have you coped with? You've got 3 young children,
Very
really,
young.
and you run a business.
Yeah.
How did you kind of cope through that period of losing him and coming through the other side with not just by yourself, but with children, with responsibility, with a business?
Yeah. It was very difficult, in all honesty, and I think I went into survival mode. Even whilst he was unwell, I went into survival mode. And what was really quite amazing for me is that my life is peppered with encounters with God. I've got a very strong relationship with Jesus. And he was always there. He was there throughout the entire duration. But what he gave me during that time, and also when he passed, was a surge of strength in moments of great anxiety. And having to, you know, look at that and understand that though God was there, God decided to go a different way, made me come face to face with a sovereign God. God is sovereign. The notion I had of God was so different in that moment that I realized that, you know, we serve a God that can be trusted but cannot be controlled. And he will do what he feels best. And so it was now for me to sit up as a mother and make sure, first and foremost, that I'm okay, because when the mother is okay, everybody else is okay.
It's true.
And I really couldn't put my thoughts into words because it was a very unique, different, difficult situation. But I had to get myself together very quickly because, yes, my husband has passed on to glory, but you won't come and steal my children's joy and you won't come and ruin my children's life. So, yeah.
Go on.
Just as you're speaking, I'm thinking about there's a lot of stages in that journey, and I'm just processing what that would have felt like, even having a spouse that's unwell, and hearing that news. You said survival mode, just something about that just really resonated with me, and I just would like to ask you what it was like to even deal with having a spouse that's unwell and you've got 3 children.
Because life doesn't stop in the midst of that.
Yeah.
Life doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And it's a great question because, you know, it's the best way for me to describe it, because in the moment you don't really know what you're doing. You just do things. And, you know, how I've come to accept and acknowledge it is that everything that as a Christian I have been doing, or I had been doing prior to this moment, I felt was a dress rehearsal. You know, every, miracle I have seen or heard, every scripture, every event I've been to, serving, helping people, pouring into people, it was that prepared me for this moment. You know, they say that what you read is what you become. So I became all of those things that I had encountered prior to this. So because of my disposition, I have a disposition to strength. My focus was him. My focus was, I know that God is real, and I know that God is, he can see all of this that's going on. And so I'm going to give you as my husband the confidence that we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
We're unmoved because as a child of God, you will be tested, right? It's biblical, right? You will be tested. But what I did do, I wasn't running a business then. I was in full-time employment. I was actually on maternity leave with our, you know, our youngest was, she was 5 months old. Yeah, so what I did do was that I made sure that life continued for my children. They are going to go to piano lesson.
Yeah.
They're going to go to the park. They're going to enjoy their life because they are children. They have that right. And I'm going to take care of my spouse. I'm going to take care of my husband, and God is going to take care of the family. So you just go into survival mode.
Yeah. Just during that time beyond his passing, what have been some of the most helpful, practical things that friends and family have done, said? It's such a challenging time when somebody loses someone, especially a husband or a wife.
Yeah.
And if you've never walked through that, you can't understand that.
You cannot.
You know, you cannot understand what that is. But people want to do their best, but sometimes don't know what to do, don't know what to say. So, like, I'm sure you've had all the kind of bad side of that too. But what were some of the really helpful and practical things for you and your story, your family?
I can't say, honestly speaking, I can't say anything was practical because the situation was not practical.
Yeah.
You know, I had to accept the unacceptable, right, of losing my husband, you know, who was full of life. So what's the practicality about that?
Yeah.
But what I did do is that, you know, I sat with God, and I did my best to dig deep. Dig deep, because everything now has been moved. It's different. You know, a light has gone, right? And so I called on people within my exclusive circle. I called on them for strength, and I called on them for direction, because, you know, people make friends in their bias, you know, and most of the people that are, you know, around me, we have similar principles, you know, guiding principles, belief, etc. So I called on them to lean on, and they were the most amazing group of friends. You know, now I know them as my children's board of directors, because they help me in terms of how I make decisions. I ultimately have the final say, or God has the final say, but they were there to support me. They were there to support me because people that knew my husband and had a beautiful relationship with him, because he was a people's person. He was a burden bearer for many, many people. And I've never really encountered them, really, because I'm that wife that stays in her lane and just, you know, very gracious to people. I host people, I'm nice, but that's about where it starts and ends. So people approaching me with scriptures, it was the scriptures that I couldn't deal with. It was wild. You know, I just lost my husband, and the first thing you feel to say is, God is the husband to the widow. You know, it hadn't yet occurred to me that I was a widow. And then the next one is, you know, Jesus is the father to the fatherless. Well, I've not yet told my children that daddy has gone, you know, and, you know, what's it called? Mourning may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Well, I've not slept. You know, I've not slept, you know, so a barrage of scriptures. And my friend always, you know, encourages me, and this is where I sit, to assume good intent, but there has to be a level of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And so my exclusive circle, they just let me be. They'd sit with me, won't say anything until I was ready to speak. And that was so helpful, because whilst the calls are coming in and, you know, the doors, someone's always at the door, you know, I can't even take my wig off, right, because someone's there. You know, you always got to look prepared. It was hard work, and they would shield and shelter me. But again, people posting on Instagram, you know, why do you feel the need to do that? And I understand that people grieve in different ways. So again, my exclusive circle took some posts down, you know, asked people not to do that, because it was so unhelpful, especially because it wasn't something that we knew that was coming. Right. So they helped me. Now, another set of friends, I never knew I would need this. They turned up 4 months later.
Okay.
And they said, Sarah, we knew that at the start you're going to have a barrage of people, so many people. But Sarah doesn't need us now. Sarah needs us in 4 or 5 months later, when the calls stop, when the food stopped coming, when the door stops knocking, right? So that they were there to fill in that gap, just to help me sort of transition across the final 6 months before it was the 1 year anniversary. So it's your people that you have around you that really help to make things as practical as it can be.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name's Rachel.
And my name's Sinead, and we'll be your hosts for these episodes as we're joined by incredible women from the Magnify community to chat through their lived journeys and experiences across money, relationships, and work, all from the perspective of their relationship with God.
We know so many of you already watch these conversations, so if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, hit the button now. It really helps this important content to reach even more women around the world and ensures we keep bringing these conversations to you.
We hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get into it.
You were saying earlier about the imagery we think when we think of a widow is like, the bent over old lady. You so young when you lost your husband.
Yes.
What have been some of the specific challenges to losing him at such a young age with young children?
I think it's the loss of dreams. It's the loss of dreams. Death is so rude.
Yeah.
So rude. doesn't care about your plans, doesn't care about your age, your colour, if you've got children, doesn't care at all. It's so rude and it's so disruptive. So for me, it was just not losing, the love of my life, but it was also the loss of dreams and having that strength, being brave to dream again, and that takes a lot. And I now understand why some people lose their voice. Some women lose their voices in terms of they can't dream again. They cannot dream again. And how I describe me losing my voice, there's this poem that I love, and I came across it when I was at school in a voice class, and that poem was the most beautiful poem I'd ever read, but I didn't understand the magnitude of that poem. I over a few days, I did sort of think, where does a person have to get to be able to write this? And just to give you guys a flavour of the poem, it's the first few lines says, stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone, stop the dog from barking with a juicy bone. He was my north, my east, my south, my west. He was my working week, he was my Sunday rest. Put out the moon, there's no need for it anymore. Put out the sun, I don't need the sun. So if all of that is what I'm feeling, it's so difficult to dream again. It is so challenging to not only mourn somebody that has gone, but also to mourn what could have been.
I think what you're saying then about, it's a beautiful poem.
It's a gorgeous one.
But what you were saying then about death not discriminating, it doesn't care about your plans, your dreams.
Yeah.
And certainly following Jesus doesn't protect us from death either, sadly. But it just is a part of our lives, but a very difficult part of our lives. But how has your relationship with Jesus impacted how you've processed this?
Jesus is amazing. Jesus, it's I've always had a good relationship with Christ. I will, and I think what has helped me is conversations that I had with my husband when he was here, and I made it very clear to him that he's not he's not my world. My husband was never my world. I was never his world, but he was the center of my world, and I was the center of his world. Jesus is my world, because before him, Jesus has always been, right? My children are not my world. Jesus is, they are the center of my world. So because I understand not to judge God based on one life-changing incident, though it's incredibly painful, I look back and I remember what he has done, how far he has brought me, and also something happened when I lost my husband. I realized how temporary life is.
Yeah.
How, as a child of God, we believe in eternal life, but you have this thing that you're going to live forever. But it made me realize how temporary life is, and also how intentional I have to be. So intentionality is not a luxury for me, it's a way of life, especially since losing my husband. And when you see somebody fight for their life, when you see them fight for their life, you take an audit of your life. And some people may never recover in terms of they will lose their faith, they will. But I realized that my battle wasn't my life, it was my faith. Right? The battle for me is my faith. And I felt in my heart that that Lord saying to me, Sarah, don't let one of the most precious gifts I give you be what takes your faith.
Oh.
Don't let it take your faith. And so for me, it was a battle of my faith, and I chose Jesus again, but I chose him with an understanding that he is sovereign.
Yeah. The word intention has really come to mind as you're just speaking, that even when you were single, you're a very intentional person. I really resonate with that. And then throughout your life, you made decisions. Even in difficult times, you set your intentions for your children, for your family.
Yeah.
But I can also imagine when you're intentional, you get a strong picture of how you imagine things to go. And when life doesn't go the way we intended, how does a woman especially not be defined by what has happened?
Yeah.
You know, so many of us are put in boxes as well because of events that have happened. How did you not allow yourself to be defined by this event, what was to come as well? How did you transform almost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you know, and that's a great word, transform. It's a rebirth, right? It really is a rebirth. It's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. So it was a rebirth for me. But also, as I sort of touched on earlier on, throughout my life, I have had this notion, this belief that where you were born, where you're born, the social, economic background you come from, whatever life deals you, should not determine your final point. It shouldn't. And because that is something that has traveled with me throughout my life, even as I'm sat here, right? It's easy for me to refuse to be defined by what I've been through, what I've experienced. So what does come with it is refinement.
Yeah.
There is a refinement. There's a shift, there's a refinement of focus, a refinement of, you know, how you spend your time, who you spend your time with. There's a level of urgency as well. There's a level of urgency to make sure that you are the best you can possibly be and know that you have done your best for that day and you're happy with the day. So it's a mindset shift, but it comes from, for me, it came from reading. Right, it came from reading. I read a lot. And the reason why I read a lot and why I always encourage people to read is that you stop being so narrow-minded, right? And you've got a pool of resources to draw from. And then you realise that actually, I'm not an anomaly. This is happening every single day, every second to somebody else, right? And so you don't feel like, you know, God is against you. Yeah. So when you're able to draw on many perspectives, you have an understanding that this moment is not going to define me. It's not going to be my defining moment, but it will be a refining moment. You have to accept it because it's something that you just can't brush past or ignore, you know, or hope that it goes away. So it's the reading. It is trusting that what you have read in the Bible to be true. Right? Because what is the other alternative? For me, there's no other alternative. I have to believe what I've read until I get to glory and then we can have words. You know, but women should not be defined. They shouldn't be defined by things that have happened to them that is beyond their control. And the more we empower women to understand that there are different layers to them, there are different, you know, facets to them, I think it will be better in terms of them not thinking in such a narrow-minded way.
Absolutely. Since your husband's passed, have you had many interactions with other women who have been through the same thing at a young age? And do you feel you've been able to just offer a different level of compassion and just sitting with people? Has that been as you know, you said about reading. You're absolutely right. When you broaden your horizon and your perspective, I love what you said about refining, defining, and also feeling like God's not just on a rampage to ruin my life. Even though it's very painful.
He's out to get me.
Have you found that you've been able to sit with women just in a different seat than you had before?
Yeah, I'm humbled. I'm so humbled. Before, I think it would be difficult to get me in one place. You know, I'm always on the run. I need to go here, I need to do this. And I'm so humbled, I'm so centered, and I'm so grounded. And yes, unfortunately, I have come across a few women who have experienced, have gone on the journey that, I'm currently on. And there are two things that I would say, The first thing is that if you have passed it and you don't feel you have that muscle, you don't have to be the poster girl or poster boy for it, right? Just because a community chooses you,
That's good.
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you have to be the poster girl.
Yeah.
If it's not you, right? I don't know, God has gifted me with this muscle of resilience, this muscle of passion for women. And so the women that I have come across, I have been empathetic, but I've also allowed them to tell me how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Because once they approach me, they're looking for solutions, they're looking for answers. And the truth is, we may never know until we get to glory.
Yeah.
There's no point in trying to make something up to make them feel better, because words are so powerful during that season that you will sit in it. You will go over it again and again and again. So I just sit and I listen to them. But what I do say to them is that you will never get over it. I tell them the truth. You will never get over it, but it will become lighter and you will move forward. You will certainly move forward. So I have a passion for all women, but I have a greater passion for women who have, gone on a similar journey to myself. And also because we've lost our spouse, we have to be careful not to become too familiar.
Right.
Because it's different and it's unique to every person, right? And some people may not be, they're mourning the husband, but they're also mourning the loss of themselves, their identity. There are so many layers to it. So it's important not to go in as a solution provider, but to go in as a person who has two ears and one mouth.
Has that felt natural to you? Did you, sometimes I think, especially in Christian circles, there can be a pressure. You talk about being the poster girl, right?
Yeah.
Or feeling like somebody's making you a poster girl. There can be a pressure if you've walked through something to be then the guide, the helper, the door opener for everybody else. But you just so rightly said that walking through a similar experience doesn't make you the same person, doesn't give you the same emotions. No. It's very different.
It's very different.
Did you feel a pressure for that, or do you just think that's just in your DNA?
Yeah, I've never felt pressure to do anything. I think that, my personality, it's difficult to put me under pressure because I know who I am, I know where I live, and I know where I sit.
Yeah.
So for you to, put a narrative on me that is not in line with my calling, it's not in line with what I believe, you're wasting your time.
Really
literally, it's not going to work. But, for me, I felt that an alignment. I felt that I could do it and I could carry it, and I can carry it gracefully as well, because God allowed me to see others not do it so well.
Yeah.
Right? And it hurt me. So don't talk to them like this, Just do it this way. And I thought, well, okay, Sarah, when God allows you to see a problem, you're probably the answer to that problem, right? Especially when it disturbs you so much, and it disturbed me. So, if I come across a woman, and it's not necessarily the loss of a spouse, it could be divorce, right?
Of course, yeah.
Or it could be a loss of a job, etc. I've gone from a two-person, a household of two income to one, right? That is
that in itself.
That is a monster in itself, because the bills don't get halved. The bills don't go, one has gone, well, that's half the bill. No, it's the same, if not more, because the children are getting older. So if I can help a woman who's having financial challenges become a little bit more financially literate, financially empowered, I will do so. Her problem may be that she can't mourn until she solves her financial problem.
Yes.
Right? So you're not going to get through to her because it's that she's financially struggling. It could be this person because, they always wanted a child, but he's gone. It's different.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Mourning dreams that have gone. So you have to have that discerning spirit to know how to approach each person. And sometimes God has not called you to the person.
Yeah.
And if I feel that God has not called me, I'm not going to say anything. You have to know when to not say something.
You said something that really just stuck with me about choosing who you spend your time with.
Yeah.
And relationships, I can hear, are really important to you.
Yes.
It's something you really think about. But then you also offer grace to those that maybe aren't as emotionally aware.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, even now, going into relationships with people and what you want for your life going forward, what types of relationships you want to have. Because I think, again, people, when they hear your story, they might start to, treat you different, or
they do.
show a certain level of pity. Like they think it's compassion, but they're always
like
making you a victim.
It's pity.
Yeah. And it's like, thank you for your scriptures, thank you so much. But, and I wonder how you set good boundaries in your relationships with people and also how you decide these are the type of relationships I would like.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't always know what we need as well, but how do you set those desires and deal with relationships?
It's pity. Oftentimes it's pity. It's pity because we've not been conditioned to accept death. Right? I don't believe it was ever part of God's master plan. It was introduced. So our frame is not designed to accept it. So people behave differently when, it appears. And in terms of boundaries, yes, I render grace, I offer grace, but I also offer grace to myself.
Yeah.
Because you can't offload on me.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
And so one way in which I'm able to manage that is I'm very positive normally. So it's the tone.
Yeah.
Rachel. How are we doing today? God be praised. What's going on? What are we eating? That's me. I have to change it up because otherwise they will continue in that tone. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Just speak up, speak loud. I'm still the same person.
Yeah.
But in all of this, again, I think once they see that you are normal, they then start to behave like, okay, they relax a little bit, what are we drinking? What have you watched? What are you reading? But I would say this, that even though I want people to talk to me as they would normally talk to me, I've got to understand that, they're grieving as well, right? They, and one has to be very emotionally intelligent when that is in the picture. And so how I've balanced it is that I understand that love and grief are best friends. They are. And it's this experience that has made me realise that they come hand in hand because the price that we pay for love is grief. One day it's going to happen. Yeah. No one's exempt from it, right? And because I know that I can be experiencing intense love from being with my children, from being with friends and family or people that I find so incredibly special, and the grief is still there.
Yeah.
It is still there. So when people come with their narrative, whether it's empathy, sympathy, pity, which are three very different things, right? And people don't know the differentiation of them sometimes, is that just lead in love and allow grief to be. And then you'll get a nice balance.
Yeah.
That love and grief just... It sounds like an oxymoron, but I think it's a really powerful relationship. And you talked about reading more and sort of just opening yourself up to more of just what could be in life. And what have you read about love that has helped the grief? And what have you read about grief as well that has helped you learn about love? I know it's a big question, but
you just asking me that question, I remember quite vividly, I became a bookworm because nobody was giving me the answer that I wanted. Right? All this wishy-washy. When you're very intentional, when people just don't know what they're talking about. Right? You're like, their eyes glaze over. the thought has gone. You're like, nah,
I'm going to have to find this for myself.
So I read everything. I read Dr. Tony Evans and his family's Divine Disruption. I read Cheryl's book, Plan B. I read, what's his name? Oh, I can't remember. A thing called Grief.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I read that. I was reading book when that wasn't really helping. I started reading books on business. Right. And again, the business books helped me more than the books on grief and loss, because I wasn't understanding what they were talking about. I couldn't move beyond what I was feeling. But business brought relief, because what the business book highlighted was you have to be strategic in life, and you've got to be agile in life, because life is filled with uncertainty.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're not innovative, if you don't reinvent yourself, if you stay put, you are going to die. Right? Businesses that don't evolve, that don't transform, that don't move forward will die. And so those words, being strategic, being analytical, that brought me back to life.
Yeah.
I understood the terminology. I understood that language more than the flowery language, which I'm not used to. So those books really helped me. And then what solidified it for me was I was in church and the pastor said something. He said, you have two types of people. You've got those that live in past regrets, right? What coulda, shoulda, woulda, they just can't move beyond, I'm so, and that's their story. And he said something, and I never saw this coming, because I was there rolling my eyes, thinking, you don't understand what I have been through. And the songs as well. Some of those songs just don't help, right?
Yeah.
And he said something that, I was on my phone. He said something. He said, sometimes also, you've got to make sure that you don't stay in the goodness of the past. Don't live in the goodness of your past. My love was so good, and I'm still sat there, reminiscing, enjoying, and life is moving. My children are growing, their business is growing, and I'm still there. He challenged me that day. He said that if God can make it so good then, he can make it so good now, and he can make it so good in your future. But you've got to allow that goodness to move you forward, so you don't sit in it and become stagnant.
That's good.
How do you reconcile respecting, loving the past? I know this is a bit, I'm just thinking about what you're saying. But then also being like, if God's that good in the past, he's still good in the future. Just for you, because I imagine that's quite a complex tension.
It is. And it's one that I have wrestled with, right? But I've got to trust God. There is no alternative. And even in my journey, he has been so merciful. He has been there. He has never left me. Even, times where I have said, God, I'm not talking to you today. We're not on speaking terms, right? He's always on speaking terms with me. And when I am ready, he will be there. And God is such a gentleman, and this is one of the things I say often. He's such a gentleman that he wants you to be ready. He understands. So I am grateful. It's the attitude of gratitude. In such a short space of time, I've got 3 children. In such a short space of time, I have experienced a love that I never thought I would, right? And in such a short space of time, I have been led to believe by my encounter with God that love never dies. People die, absolutely, but love never dies. Those that are close to me, they are courageous enough to ask me, Sarah, what do you regret? I don't regret anything. I don't regret anything, because my husband and I, we did what we wanted. We went on holiday. We enjoyed life. Every moment we enjoyed. And I don't believe that God forgets that. I don't believe God forgets when you do things his way, when you wait before you get married to do certain things. He doesn't forget it.
Yeah.
I think that marriage is written in the palm of his hands, just like I'm written in the palm of his hands. It was a marriage that was ordained by him. He blessed the marriage with 3 beautiful children. He's blessed the marriage with a woman here, a wholesome woman who is empowered to help other women. He recognizes that. And it's that love that he has left me with that is allowing me to move forward. I don't for one second feel that, I need to remember how my husband loved me. I feel it every single day. I have never one day felt unloved.
Right.
I have felt lonely and I have felt alone, but I've never one day felt unloved because God leaves that love to help you move forward.
That's incredible. I've never thought of it that way.
I couldn't thought of it. It's something that just,
you've lived it.
And God, it comes to you. Like God reveals himself, and God is love. And I have an understanding now of when I say God is love, I know what that means, And love shows up in different wonderful places, and that is God saying, I'm still here, I'm still here, I'm still here. So he leaves that love with you because it's his gift that he is not prepared to take away.
Your relationship with God, like you have a real relationship with him. You spoke about putting your faith on the line. You've lived with him, you've walked with him, you've even said at times, okay, I'm not talking to you, but it's like you've learned each other.
Yeah.
I think the tendency in these situations is people distance themselves so far.
Yeah.
And like you said, sometimes people will lose their faith. But what keeps your relationship with Jesus, just tracking on? Because this is a real relationship. This is not
pretend.
Sunday. This is not
religion.
Sunday. This is not, it's cute until it gets bad. This is a real relationship. And I'm just for myself even, wanting to know how you keep it fresh, how you keep building that relationship with him.
The only way that I can answer that question is that I feel God.
Yeah.
I feel him when he brushes past me. It's really difficult to describe, but when you have gone so far with God, it's so difficult to go back.
Right.
It is so difficult to go back. And, he shows up when I pray. When I pray to him, he shows up. He never not answers prayers. He either says yes, no, or wait. Right? But he always answers prayers. And because I've gone so far with him, and because he's been so merciful with me, and because I understand that everything I have comes from him, I own nothing. He has gifted me these things, and he's gifted them to me, now I understand, on a temporary basis, right? Because they are his, right? My children are his, everything I have is his. And because I now have an understanding of that, I've accepted him for who he is. I've accepted that he has good intentions towards me. And it's so funny because, it's not funny, but when I was, at my most, at the hardest time, in this experience, I did ask God, well, if everything belongs to you, what do I have then? What is mine? Like my children belong to you, my mum belongs to you, my husband belongs to you. Like, what is mine? And I heard in my spirit, your name. Your name is you. And I gave you that name. And you have to become that name. Because that's the only thing that's going to transition with you to heaven, your name. So you get to keep your name. And so what do I want my name to represent? When people say Sarah Stephen, I want them to see a graceful woman, a woman of humility, a woman of good intent, a woman who serves others, but is also being served by God as well. So it's your name that carries the most power. We see this in the Bible, that God doesn't play with names. If he has to change your name, he will change your name, right? So because he has gifted me with that name, and because he has gifted me with beautiful gifts that even some people now are praying for, I'm grateful. I'm very, 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 very grateful.
Yeah.
And that is enough for me.
Love that. I love that. Yeah. What he calls you, that's what you keep.
That's it.
That's what you keep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm his princess.
Yeah.
I can be his warrior at times
Yeah.
as well. But
We need that too, though.
yeah, I can be a bit of a warrior, but I'm his princess.
I imagine it's a bit of a difficult question because, as you said, women walking through losing a spouse, especially at a young age, everybody's different backgrounds, different stories, going with different people. We're individuals. But is there any kind of universal wisdom that you would offer that's just irrespective of all, all the detail?
Sure. I would say
that is helpful.
Yeah, I would say it's not your fault. That's a big one. Okay. What could I have done to have prevented it? But I would say it's not your fault at all. And I would say as well that if God can make that decision, it means that you are going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And I would also say, don't be invisible. It's so easy to become invisible. And the physical body is there. I can see you, but you no longer see yourself. So you become a shadow of yourself. Everywhere you go, you're carrying this cloud around you because you are now invisible. You're invisible to your dreams. You're invisible to hope. You're invisible to laughter. Laughter is no longer your friend, right? It's sadness and depression. So do your very best to be visible. And being visible might mean it. For me, I had to upgrade myself. Do a course, go to the gym.
Were they new things in that season, or
the gym was not, but the frequency of it was. Because, I'm quite reticent when it comes to expressing my feelings. I'm not, I don't do that. As a business owner, as a mother, you're not first. Sometimes you don't even make the list. And I'm working on that. I'm trying to get myself on the list. But that was a way for me to let go a lot of tension and, get some dopamine, surge and everything. So the frequency of the gym, increased, but the reading, there's a lovely lady. I'm part of an executive women's program, and the wonderful lady who runs it, Yetunde Hoffman, she said something. She said, Sarah, what got you here is not going to get you there. What got you here is not going to get you there. You need to make sure you've got as much as you can to get you there. And so the reading really brought out a different Sarah, a Sarah that has been rebirthed, So it could be anything for these women. It could be, go out. Another thing that I would recommend, there's another lady that I've met. See, the women are coming in thick and fast. And she said, a joy account, Sarah. A joy account. Well, what is a joy account? A joy account is you putting money away each month, whether it's £10 or £20, whatever it is that you can afford, so that you treat yourself at the end of each quarter. You've got something to look forward to. And that is for you, not your children, not your household bills, not your mates. It's for you. And that will lift you up. So my encouragement is to feed your soul and feed your mind, because most of the challenges I have faced has come from the mind. It starts off in the mind.
I want to ask you one more question.
Go for it.
Do you feel, after the loss of those dreams, right, do you feel you've been able to have new dreams?
Oh, Rachel, you know the answer to that. You know the answer to that, right?
I've got
dreams coming at me. I'm like,
and they don't feel second rate.
No. See, there's no second
it's
best with God.
It's not a pity dream, right?
It certainly isn't. No, there's no second best with God. God will always give you his best, right? And for where I'm at in my life right now, the dreams that I have, they're beyond me.
Yeah.
They're beyond my family. They're beyond my daily bread, right? It's a dream that I hope will be global. It's a dream that I hope will allow another Sarah to know that she can make it another day. And there's that saying that you have never really impacted somebody's life until you can do something for them that they can never repay you for, right? And so that is the dream that God has given me. You know, I'm working hard day and night because I understand what is at stake. Destinies are at stake. And God doesn't play with destinies. He doesn't. You know, you play with God's, destinies, God doesn't take it lightly, I don't think. And so the dreams that I now have is more inclusive.
Yeah.
You know, it's more empowering. It involves women. It involves women to show up and be the very best that they can be that day, whether it's 5%, 10%, or 100%. And I'm so grateful for this dream. I'm so grateful that I get to empower women. I get to teach them about financial literacy. I get to explain to them the importance of having your own, right?
Yeah.
So yes, He's birthed something in me that it could only have come from Him.
Yeah. It's amazing. And obviously here at Magnify, we're a community. So we'd just love to know, like, where can we find you online, or how can we support you? You know, are there any projects you're working on, or tell us a bit about your business, whatever networks that you're a part of that you're really proud of?
So I love Magnify. I love Magnify. You guys are amazing and the community is so warm. So if you're looking for me, I'm not hard to find. I'm often on Instagram, and you can follow me at the Sarah Stephen on Instagram. But my heartbeat is women. So, you can DM me. I'm a trustee at the Hill Hub Foundation. And what we do there is that we empower communities, low socio-economic communities, to have power and to grow wealth. We believe in home ownership. So if I can help women become homeowners, women co-invest. I work with women, like maybe groups of 5 to 10 women, to come together to buy properties in order to help them grow their wealth without them physically having to do more hours at work. I do that as well. So yes, you can support us by putting out the word.
Good. You truly are a gracious woman. You are. This has been so good. I don't know what to say.
I'm just thinking about the dreams and the destinies and the people you're going to touch. Just
by God's grace.
Yeah. It's exciting.
By God's grace. And thank you for having me. You guys are amazing.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your story. So vulnerably, honestly, we know this is going to be a really important conversation.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for today's conversation. We hope you gleaned as much from it as we did.
You can join us to cultivate wisdom, be inspired, and gain knowledge on how to put your best foot forward in your career, money, and relationships, all grounded in faith as we grow together.
If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with all of our episodes at the Magnify Conversations.
If you have a story to share and would like to be featured on the conversations, get in touch with Team Magnify through magnifycollective.com and head to our contact form.
We'll see you soon for another installment. From all of our team and crew, have a great week.